What's going on, broskies? Phantom Nightmare is going to be dropping soon in just about a week or so, and we are definitely hyped about the new sets that are going to be dropping in that booster box set. Now, we are expecting a lot of support for a lot of older decks, and a new archetype that is dropping that has a lot of potential, but also has a lot of work that needs to be done with it. Stay tuned for the Ashen deck build and combo video that'll be coming out soon. Your boy's definitely in the kitchen cooking it up. I'm trying to make sure I got the best deck build for you with the support cards that we have coming out and currently in play. So I definitely been putting in a lot of hours with that deck, and hopefully the spiciness is there where you guys can enjoy it when the cards finally drop and we can make some big plays with it. But in the meantime, I want to go over the Phantom Nightmare booster set card list and go over some cards that some people aren't really talking about that deserves a lot of light, and then some cards that we definitely know about, and I just want to shed some more light on that, in my opinion, why they may be good or may not be good. So let's get right into it. Starting off with Snake Eyes Populist. Now, everybody already knows all about this card. It is a desperately needed card right now for the Snake Eye engine, but on top of the Snake Eye engine that is currently being played in the Fire King format, this card single-handedly will assist in the Snake Eyes engine to make the Snake Eyes pure deck really good. If you throw this in the Snake Eye deck, you'll be able to extend your plays a lot further and recycle the cards that you need to and bring out Flame Dragon a lot quicker. But if you actually use this by itself in a Snake Eye pure deck, the opportunity is absurd. I've been playtesting a lot with this deck just as a pure Snake Eye deck, and it is amazing the plays you can possibly do on an opening board going first, and then you can go ahead and basically establish an entire full board on the second player's draw phase. It's insane the amount of searchability and recycling you can do with just this one card added to the deck. So if you guys already don't know, the description for this card is if this card is added to your hand except by drawing it, you can special summon it. If this card is normal or special summoning, you can add one Snake Eye spell or trap from your deck to your hand, and that's going to open up a lot of possibilities because there is new Snake Eye support spells and traps that are coming out, and we will actually be going over one of them next. If this card is sent to the graveyard, which is going to be happening all the time, for one, it is a fire pyro monster. So you guys already know, especially in Fire Kings, everything wants to be sent to the graveyard. And on top of that, to pop this card off, you're going to be sending it a lot with the Black Witch effect. You can target one fire monster in your graveyard, place it face up in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. You can only use the effect of Snake Eyes Populist once per turn. So right there, you already know you're going to be placing probably Black Witch or something else that you're going to be wanting to recycle. I'm going to definitely go into a deep explanation about this specific card and the plays that you can potentially do, because currently at the moment there are 3 different branches I feel like are the most optimal plays with this card, and I will definitely be going down in a breakdown of the deck and my build in an upcoming video very shortly. Now on to the second Snake Eye card I want to talk about, which is the new spell support, Dramatic Snake Eye Chase. Now it's a very interesting art, I'm not gonna lie, but I definitely do love the Snake Eye engine arts on all the cards. They are pretty nice. So this is going to be place one of the Bellstar monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up in its owner's spell and trap as a continuous spell, which is perfect because this way you can go ahead and recycle Black Witch once again and then set yourself up for or another play line that you want to go ahead and do, or get a backup play line and prep yourself for your opponent's board next turn. During the end phase, you can banish this card from the grave, then target one monster card, treat it as a continuous spell you control, special summon it. So right there, you can go ahead and just banish it and just get your Black Witch place going and pop everything off on the end phase. Or you can actually go ahead, depending on the play setup that your opponent's board potentially might be, you can go ahead and pop this off on their end phase, because it says during the end phase. It didn't specifically say during your end phase, so we have to see the ruling about that. But this is most likely going to be used on your end phase to go ahead and utilize Black Witch to set up your plays going forward if you had any potential interruptions, or you want to go ahead and extend your play even further when you know you have that security because your opponent most likely utilized their hand traps already at some point in your board. Next, we got the Black Goat Laughs. Now this card is very interesting because I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on this card when they definitely should not be. Now with a lot of the floodgates being limited to 1, this is going to going to be opening up a lot of new potentials for floodgates going forward in the new Yu-Gi-Oh format. And I feel like the Black Gold Labs is a really good potential floodgate card that's going to be desperately needed for some decks, especially Labyrinth. So this card specifically says, declare one monster card's name. Neither player can special summon monsters with that original name for the rest of the turn except from the grave. So this is going to be potentially handy for Labyrinth and potentially Fire King or any other deck that runs a lot in the graveyard. Now, you can banish this card from your graveyard and declare one monster card's name. Neither player can activate the effects of monsters on the field with that original name for the rest of the turn. So this is going to be perfect because it's basically going to be a negate in a sense. So as soon as your opponent goes ahead and summon their first starter card that you know that's going to potentially go out on some lines, you just go ahead and banish this, declare that card's name, and they cannot go ahead and activate their effects. So you kind of shut them out of that line. Of course, depending on the speed of the card effect, but the Black Goat Labs is going to be a very interesting card going into 2024. I'm definitely going to be curious of how this card is going to be played. I personally myself want to be running this card because it kind of locks your opponent out of certain potential plays, and they're going to know you have that in the grave, so you're going to wait to snipe a specific card. And that could be a key playing card if they summon a big beast monster with a banishing or a destruction effect that you know is going to be a problem, or even a negate effect, and you can utilize this card to bait their effects or to just get rid of them all entirely, so you know you have that security to go ahead and establish your boards going forward. So this is a very, very well good card. Next we got Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames. Now, this card's been getting a lot of hype recently, and I know the potential for this card is going to be crazy. It's going into 2024, new format. Everything is basically fire support. It's going to be pyro and fire, destruction based, graveyard based, so it's going to be perfect for all the support, and this card is going to be splashable in a lot of engines. Now the fact that it's a link, 2+ effect, 3 monsters realistically. You cannot special summon monsters except fire monsters, that's a given. You can only use each of the following effects once a turn. During your main phase, you can special summon one fire monster from your graveyard. So that alone right there is really good because it has a built-in recycle engine to set up your following plays. If a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can target one fire monster you control and one monster your opponent controls, destroy them. If you do, special summon this card. Now, just imagine the potential that this card has right there. So for one, you have a recycling when this card's on the field to go ahead and further your plays, and on top of that, you have a second recycling engine for when it is in the grave, and a destruction. So especially thinking Fire Kings now, this in the grave, pop something on the field, activate that effect, put into the recycling engine, Fire King monster effect is going to pop up and do what they do. This comes back to the field. Your opponent's monster is also now destroyed. But see, it says target one monster you control and one monster your opponent controls. So you guys already know how we feel about the word targeting around here, but it's not going to be the end of the world, because if you actually time this correctly with the Black Goat Labs, now you can go ahead and declare that monster's name, negate any effects that it may potentially want to try to pop off, then pop Promethean Princess, destroy that card, and now it can't activate its effect in response to anything, and it's going to be destroyed. So right there, you just got rid of a potentially important and dangerous card your opponent has on the field. You just recycled a fire monster because of Promethean Princess, and now you have a new body on the board with a 2700 basic ready to go. So the potential for the fire support in this new booster box is going to be really, really good. And we're not even talking about popping in with Poppy Glitch there either. So just imagine the plays that I've been cooking up recently using these cards, and it's insane what you can go ahead and do with these decks. Next, we got a card that I feel no one is really talking about right now, but I honestly feel it is a desperately needed card from the new support that just recently dropped, and it's going to be making the deck a lot more better and now more viable to play with, and that's going to be Earthbound Fusion. Now, if there are no cards on the field zone, you can only activate this card during your main phase. Fusion summon one Dark Fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand and field as material. So right there, perfect, especially because it is a quick play. So that means you can go ahead and pop this first turn whenever you want to establish a board, or you can actually go ahead and quick play this card on your opponent's turn and go ahead, depending on the Earthbound cards that you're going to be summoning from your extra deck, see if there's a potential play you can go ahead and set up for a negate or a disruption in any way. I'm not too familiar with the new Earthbound Fusion card effects, but I'm pretty sure there is going to be something you can do that may be dangerous for your opponent, activating this on their turn. Now, during the main phase, if there's a card in the field zone, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one Earthbound monster from your hand or graveyard. Also, you can have special summon monster from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except if you... Okay, perfect. So, on top of having a fusion summon from a quick play spell card, now you also have a potential recycle engine if you choose to use it that way. And it's going to be perfect as well because you can go ahead and pop this fusion, banish it, get one of your fusion materials back onto the field, and go ahead and continue extending your plays going forward as well. So just like we have with Dramatic Snake Eye Chase, you also have with Earthbound, where you, at the end of the turn, if you choose to do so, or in this case, you can go ahead and just banish this and extend your plays even further, which is great because we love cards that's not specifically locked into a specific time frame during the turn, and that's locked into just one effect. So this is going to be a fusion and a recycling to extend. So beautiful for the Earthbound deck. Next we got Horus the Black Flame Deity, and I just want to talk about this card for a few reasons. One, just talk about the throwbacks of the Horus Black Flame Dragon deck. Like, everybody knows and loves that deck. I always wanted to play the deck, but I never really got my hands on the full set when I was younger back in the day, and the deck wasn't really that viable going into the formats. But I'm so happy that over the years they've been sprinkling a little bit of support here and there. It's been very little bit, but it's always refreshing to see that they finally bring new support for such an old deck. And that's one thing that Konami did mention when they did do the press release for this deck. And that is that a lot of cards in this booster set is going to be supporting decks that are very, very old. And we're talking about from the original anime as well, such as the Illusions cards that even Pegasus used from the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Which is really nice and refreshing to see some of those old classic decks that basically was never playable or even had cards much to play with, finally getting support, and it is playable now. They might not be competitive, but it's still nice to know that the cards are there if you ever choose to build a deck and just play for fun casually. On top of that, the Horus the Black Flame Deity, like, let's just admire that artwork for a second and just enjoy it. Like, that's a really, really nice looking artwork. And I kind of love the black flames around it. It reminds me of something like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto related, and it's really dope. And it's interesting enough, like the Horus card itself, it just looks more machine, just more Cyber Dragon-ish. And I kind of really love that. And they finally put some nice gold on it. So because this card is working in conjunction with the Horus Gold Sarcophagus engine, I can see why they decked my man out with some nice bling there. So let's see what this card is all about really. If you control a Horus monster and King Sarcophagus, you can reveal this card in your hand and send one card from your hand or field to the graveyard. Send one card from the field to the graveyard. Okay. So this is basically going to be dumping because as we know how the Horus engine goes, and how King Sarcophagus is going to be coming into play a lot now with the new support cards. A lot of them is going to be sending it to grave and popping effects off from there as well, so this is going to just be dumping a lot of cards into the grave using this first effect. If you face up King Sarcophagus and or Horus monsters, other than Horus the Black Flame Deity, you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, then you can send all other monsters on the field to the graveyard. Built-in Raigeki, you know your boy loves any card that has a built-in Raigeki board wipe effect. You can only use this effect once per turn. Okay, so it is fairly easy to summon for the most part. 3000 beat stick Fire Dragon 8-star. That is always something good to go ahead and take. And you can special summon this card from your hand. I can definitely see this card getting a lot more play now, especially with the new Horus engine, which is very good and very expensive, which is just, I don't even want to get into that at this point. So this is a nice addition to the engine, and I would love to see this card being run more. I personally would want to go ahead and pick up a few of those Horus cards myself. They are just a little bit on the pricier side, or my Fire King deck, and wait for that new deck profile and combo tutorial that I'll be bringing out very soon in the next week or so. Shipping is just taking a while to come through right now for some of the remaining cards I need, but as soon as I will get my hands on those cards, expect a video on that, and I'll show what I've been working on for the longest with that deck, why I will be running certain cards that I'm not seeing nobody's running, and why I'm choosing specific playline. On to the next card, we got Skull Guardian Protector of the Voiceless Voice. Now, this booster set is going to be bringing out a whole new archetype, which is going to be the Voiceless Voice archetype. And they are really dope. A lot of them are going to be having artwork from previous cards that used to exist back in the day. And I love seeing cards like that come back with a new reprint, new artwork, or just a brand new card in general. And they're just utilizing that, like Flame Swordsman, for example. So Konami is definitely doing something I love right there. And this Skull Guardian is dope because I actually used to have the original ritual monster for this, and I never played it. I never thought anything of it. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere back there in my collection, but this is dope that after so many years, I'm actually seeing this card being brought up now with the new format. So just nostalgia. I already love this card. Even if it's going to be useless, I would just like to add it to my collection just to have it right beside the original. So you can ritual summon this card with Prayer of the Voiceless Voice. Gain 2050 attack. So he already has original 2050. It's so strange to see any monster with a 2050 attack. While low, the Prayer of the Voiceless Voice is on your field or in the graveyard. So that right there is very interesting because, for one, I do need to familiarize myself more with the Voiceless Voice cards that are coming out because there's just so many cards coming out in such a short time frame. It is a little bit hard to just keep track of all these new cards, trying to memorize the card effects, but this card is going to be very interesting because at that point it's going to be 4100 attack, I guess? And to have a 4100 attack is pretty nice if you're just looking beatstick wise. You can only use each of the following effects of Skull Guardian Protector. Once returned, if this card is ritual summoned, you can add one Voiceless Voice monster or one warrior or dragon ritual monster from your deck to your hand. When your opponent activates a card or effect you control, prayers, voice a quick effect, you can negate the activation if you do destroy that card. Wow, okay, so on top of this card being a ritual card, it's going to be a 4100 beat stick. That is going to give you a card that you potentially would want to set up and extend plays even further to add one Voiceless Voice monster, warrior, or dragon ritual from your deck to your hand. So that's going to be a really good extension. And as long as you control low, then you got a negate and a destruction right there all in one card. So this card is really, really beast if you ask me, and I actually did not realize how good this card was. It's always nice to have such a big boss monster with a really good card effect, so it makes it more worth playing. And next we got another new archetype that I feel like is not getting much talk about in the new coming booster box set, and that's the Goblin Biker archetype. So here we got Goblin Biker Big Gabonga. I kind of like the name Gabonga, and I feel like the new Goblin Biker cards all got a little bit of funny names, kind of cool playing around, so Konami definitely has some fun with this. And I kind of like decks that's kind of like this archetype where you got like Goblin Biker, you had like Prank Kids, you had Thunder Patrol, so I kind of like those cartoony, funny type of decks. And this is definitely a deck I might be looking into because just the artwork alone and just like the funniness of it all, I always kind of like picking up decks like that. So this card was specifically interesting to me because it is a 2 level 3 monster, XYZ, and if this card is XYZ summon, you can add one Goblin monster from your deck to your hand, so we already know that's always good no matter what deck you're running regardless. If an XYZ material is detached from monsters on the field, you can target one other face-up monster on the field, attach it to this card as material. So, which means if you are running multiple XYZ cards on the field at the same time with this deck, which you most likely will be, and same thing goes for your opponent, at any point if a material is detached from any monster on the field, I can target one monster on the field and attach it to this card's material. And it says one monster on the field, it did not say your field specifically. So theoretically, you can go ahead and just take one of your opponent's monsters, slap it under this bad boy, and your money right there. You can attach one Goblin monster from your deck to this card's material. You can only use effects of the Goblin Bite once per turn. Okay, so one of the main reasons why I love this card, besides the first effect like I mentioned, you can just go ahead and grab a card, slap it under a material, and just keep building a big material. But the main reason is actually this is the perfect card for Zeus. Now just think about it. You're going to have 2 monsters already on this card as material. If you have another XYZ card on the field, and you pop its effect and you lose the material, you grab another monster on the field, potentially your opponent's monster, slap it on this card, now you have 3 cards. If you was to do anything else with an XYZ card on the field, which the Goblin Biker cards are going to be popping out their effects pretty often, so you can go ahead and build this card very well, you could potentially have a 4 to 6 material, including this card, on end phase go into Zeus, and now Zeus basically have a built-in Raigeki that you can pop 2 to 3 times, and it's not once per turn. So just think about how dope Zeus is going to be in this deck with this card. You can just board wipe your opponent continuously over and over and over, and they're going to be hard pressed to go ahead and respond to that, because you can go ahead and destroy their board before they have something to activate in response to your Zeus. And that, I feel like, is going to help your Goblin Biker deck really well if you go first. Alright, so that's all I got for you today, my boys. 8 cards I wanted to go over in the Phantom Nightmare booster box set I feel like deserve a lot more talk. Some, of course, you did know, and some a lot of people did not know. And I feel like you should definitely keep your eyes on these cards. Look at the potential for these new archetypes. We have about 3 new archetypes coming out, and a lot of support for a lot of old decks that never gets to see play, which you should now start looking into potentially, even as a collector. And this is going to be a very well needed box set that's going to be dropping. I absolutely love it, and I will be getting my hands on it very soon to go ahead and make an unboxing video for you guys. So if you want to see what your boy pulls, stay tuned, smash that like and subscribe button, and fingers crossed I get some good cards. But until then, I'll see you on the flip side.